think that's one of the things. And that's it. Peace, brother. Hey, buddy.
Government or Douglas?
Douglas. This is little David. How old is David? 2? 2.5?
Yes.
2.5. He's had a heart transplant.
He had a heart transplant when he was 10 days old.
Wow. Hi. All right.
I'm putting together a big resolution.
So,
2 in April. 2 in April.
He turned 2 in April.
2 in April. Wow, that's really young. Pardon?
I can get that. Cost,
Yeah.
that's that other organization.
I just want to thank you guys for going out on a limb like this. I know that it's really, in the road, you know, who would go on the sidewalk? David for PR.
I want to make sure that
Help about this. Thanks.
Is that it? Is there a caravan coming in?
No, we were told not to bring it in.
Oh,
So it's around the back.
yeah.
So we're one of the real backward countries.
We have neither.
Excuse me.
Coming up the hill right now. Or up the, not the hill.
TT, I didn't know it was you I was talking to.
Huh?
I didn't know it was you I was talking to. Can I get the keys? I gotta get my bag out of the car.
Yeah, it's way parked far, far away.
My notes are in there.
There's a legislative parking lot in the back.
With the Premier and our government, we want to welcome you and say what a remarkable journey on behalf of a successful liver transplant recipient. And you have had a great journey, and I think this is a journey of hope and a journey of awareness to bring the message that we need more organ donors. I know in BC alone we've got 500 people waiting. Last year across Canada, I understand 147 people died waiting. We want to make sure that people know that they can give the gift of life, and you've certainly brought that message across Canada, and we are happy to accept that message here and work with you to make sure all of our citizens across Canada and this province benefit from what you have done. So thank you very much. Congratulations.
And I think we have our Victoria's very own Dave Cutler here to MC the rest of the event. Dave, if you may.
Great. You're probably, I am an ex-football player. And if you want to know what football players look like after they're finished, I know it's not a pretty sight. We have got some very special guests here today, and not the least of which is George and David Wright-Smith. And one of the things that's really, really important about this is the giving that's gone on with this. And there's all sorts of people that are giving of their time and all the things that are necessary to make this really happen. And I'd like to introduce, and I hope everybody's here already, is Cindy Hawkins, Minister of Health, Colin Hanson, Minister of Health Services, Dr. Keith Martin, Canadian Alliance MP. He had to go. I think he's just down the hall and to the left. Sorry. Rob Fleming, Acting Mayor. Representative Lynn Mosley and Jim McGeer of the David Foster Foundation. Tia Tony Wilson. Tia, I'm sorry. Hi, Tia. And David Wright Smith, the road manager for George, and George Marcello. And we just heard Cindy talk, and I'd like to ask Colin Hanson if he's got a few words.
This journey that George has undertaken is so valuable because since in British Columbia particularly, where we changed over the system whereby people become organ donors, it's no longer adequate
to raise the awareness of the importance of becoming an organ donor. The David Foster Foundation provides emotional and financial support for families of children requiring organ transplants, and we get to see both ends of the emotional spectrum, the despair when people are simply waiting, and then the joy when something becomes available. So I would ask anybody in the audience or watching any of this or listening to any of it, if you aren't already a donor, please educate yourself, make a decision for yourself that's right, and then share that decision with your family and your loved ones and act upon it and become an organ donor. Thank you very much, and congratulations, George.
We've also got a very special guest here today, and it's Paul and Sonia Subio, and I'd like to ask Paul to say a few words.
Thank you. First, I'd like to congratulate George and thank him for the wonderful work that he's doing, and I sincerely hope that this will raise awareness and will motivate everyone to become an organ donor. We are all potential organ donors and potential recipients. The little guy here making a lot of noise, David, is 2 years old, and David received a new heart when he was 10 days old, and without this new heart, David would have died. And David has touched the lives of many people. He's brought us a whole lot of love, and we believe he's going to make wonderful contributions to this world. And we couldn't have David here if a family, out of their tragedy 2 years ago, made the choice to give hope to another family. And so our family thanks not only that family, but also the David Foster Foundation. Without them, we couldn't have done this. But we sincerely hope that George's work, George's wonderful work here will motivate people to become organ donors. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not very often that we hear about all sorts of things with organ donation, etc., and it's not very often that you see what a recipient really looks like. And boy, what a wonderful little guy. Does it? See this? I'm not sure how that works. Oh, we got it now. The next speaker I'd like to introduce is a fellow named David Wright Smith. Now, David Wright Smith is from Victoria, BC. He actually works with my brother. And David needed a liver. And like so many people that have something that's not working well, that their life is in jeopardy until they get that new liver. And I'd like to introduce the road manager for George Marcello, David Wright Smith.
Thank you, Dave. See if we can fix this so I can use my cheat notes. And I'd also like to acknowledge that George now has a new road manager, being as I'm no longer able to go on with him, and Tia Tony Wilson is here with us today, and I'd just like to acknowledge her presence. Well, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. I didn't realize what it was to be an organ recipient, really be an organ recipient until I came on the road with George. And I've just spent the last 118 days with him. And I got to tell you, it's been an amazing journey. Last year, I spent most of the year on chemotherapy, and I didn't travel more than 6 blocks away from my home for most of last year. And this year, finding myself on the road and being involved in 55 communities, press conferences. We even did 2 in one day on a few occasions. And we even had one mayor walk with us from one municipality to the next. In Sparwood, BC, we had 30 people meet us at the entrance to the town, a little tiny town of Sparwood, including the mayor. That was our first stop in BC after leaving Alberta. In every community but one, we had very gracious and helpful RCMP escorts. And today, I'd like to thank the Saanich Police for going way above and beyond the call of duty by escorting us almost into downtown Victoria, where the Victoria Police took over and very graciously escorted us the rest of the way. So thank you very much to every single police detachment that we have in British Columbia. And I'd also like to add that we just found out recently that quite a few RCMP detachments have adopted their own donor awareness policy as a result of us coming through. So, you know, thanks to people like George, that has become a reality. We visited several secondary schools and elementary schools and engaged in very positive discussion and debates each time with the students. At first, they showed kind of a casual disinterest, but after we had talked for a few minutes, the hands went up and they had all sorts of questions, and every single one of them went away, hopefully, just a little bit more aware of what it means to be an organ donor. We set up information tables in malls, and every time we did, we would meet many people who wanted to become organ donors if they weren't already. And at every mall we visited, we would meet those who had been touched by a transplant situation. The 4-year-old who'd had a liver transplant at 6 months, the 18-year-old boy who'd had a kidney transplant at 5 and now needed a kidney and a liver, the 4.5-year-old that had had a heart transplant, the 14-year-old who'd had 2 liver transplants. And you know, I can't imagine what it's like to be a young kid and have had or need a transplant. It's an amazing process, and to be an adult, it's one thing, but to be a kid, go figure. The mom who had lost her 16-year-old and regretted not donating his organs 1 week later. The mom who had lost her 16-year-old boy and 8 years ago who doesn't regret donating his organs and has heard back from some of the 5 people that he saved. The man waiting to go on the transplant list for a liver. The man already on the transplant list waiting for a liver. This all happened in 1 day in Kamloops. All the people who had relatives who were in need of transplants, and all the people who had relatives and friends who died before getting a transplant. All the people who still thought that their license sticker was all they needed to be an organ donor. We have a long way to go. Well, I see I'm going on a little bit too long here, so I would just like to say that how I was inspired by George. When I came on, I was an organ recipient, but I had 4 months later, I now realize what it means to be an organ recipient. I want to meet my organ donor family. They are very special to me, and it would be an honor and a privilege to meet them. This campaign is about raising the level of consciousness and the level of debate in our country. A person only needs to take 5 minutes to become a hero. It's about inspiring the 3 levels of government to adopt a national registry so that someone in Newfoundland might benefit from an organ donor in Saskatchewan. Through all these events, George has worked every single day to bring this campaign to the public forefront. And this is my way of introducing George, because I think he's the next speaker. I watched George one weekend plot his whole walk from Newfoundland to Toronto, taking 11 months eventually to fulfill. His focus is as straight as an arrow, no deviation. His energy is boundless. His creativity is never turned off. His desire to inspire the public and our governments is genuine. And he has no hidden agenda other than to educate the public and inspire the 3 levels of government. What does it mean to be an organ recipient? 8 years ago, I had an esophageal hemorrhage which left me unable to function. My liver had failed due to a virus, and I was given 2 years to live. Well, here I am 8 years later. So now I understand the true nature and the depth and the breadth of being an organ donor, and that strange and beautiful exchange that occurs in a region that we can only occasionally glimpse, despite living in it all the time. Thank you all for coming, and I encourage you all to be an organ donor. I issue a challenge to the citizens of BC and the country and the 3 levels of government to join with us and give our country the distinction of having the highest organ donation rate in the world. Thank you very much.
Now representing the City of Victoria, Rob Fleming.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Mayor Lowe and the rest of the members of council, I'd like to give a warm welcome to George Marcello on day 403 of his walk across Canada that he is now in our city. And it's a bit of an urban legend that cities have keys that they give out, but if we did have one, well, we have other items that we're going to give George in a few moments up at Municipal Hall. But on behalf of all Victorians, I think we're pretty inspired by George's story, somebody who has been an organ recipient but given back much more to people who find themselves in the situation that he was in a few years ago. It's truly inspiring, and I hope that George and his members of staff to our city, I know they're going to be here a few days to make the most of it, and good luck in the rest of your journey.
And now the man himself, the man that's worn out more souls all the way across Canada, and probably a very pure soul. I'd like to introduce George Marcello.
Thank you. Which way is the east here? I kind of always lose my sense. Is it that way? Okay, so I got to look at where I began from. Today is day 403. It's a 769-day walk that I'm trying to accomplish. And I started the walk on June 20th, 2000, way back in Toronto. And I've gotten used to telling people that I was born and raised there, and it's not my fault. I think you have to do that when you enter BC. So along the way, we've covered about 275 cities and towns. We've met hundreds of thousands of Canadians along the way. We've been able to, while entering the community, address and visit different sectors of the communities, including schools, hospitals, service clubs, shopping centers, festivals. So we've been, and ethnic groups, young and old. So we've been able to get this message to Canadians of all walks of life. And overwhelmingly, we're getting the same response, that Canadians are very unhappy with this dismal rate that we have, and they want to do something about it. And the overwhelming response also that I've been getting is that Canadians want a national registry. At present, BC has a registry, and they took the courageous steps to do that. And we're asking the national government, federal government, to create a national registry modeled after the one in BC. It would make a lot of Canadians happy. It would also be an effective tool in helping us save many more lives. I got 1 year to go on this walk. I'm going to be staying in Victoria for a week, and then I'm making plans to get to St. John's, Newfoundland on August 17th, where we'll all continue doing the eastern leg of our campaign and travel through the Maritimes, through Quebec, and then right around Ontario, and end up back in Toronto.